Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UENradio.com.
Welcome to Foster to Foster, and now here's your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Good morning and welcome to Foster to Foster radio show. I am Dr. Anissa McNeil. Today we're going to take our time today and really answer a question that I was asked by one of our foster youth here in Southern California. As you know, if you're a regular listener, each one of our shows is dedicated to a question that is asked of me by a foster youth here in the community in which I live, Southern California. And while interviewing a couple of young people, maybe 3 months ago, I was asked the question, Dr. McNeil, I don't know who to ask, and I don't know the information that will help me. And so today we are headed to go from I don't know to self-advocacy. So this show is dedicated to every foster child. If you are listening to the sound of my voice and you can hear me and you say, well, Dr. McNeil, who do I call? What information do I need to know? Today, we're going to drill down to that, okay? I'm going to go step by step, starting from when you come into the foster care system until you become 18 and moving on. But before we do that, if you have a cell phone and you're a young person and you have a cell phone, I want you to go to applications on your cell phone, and I want you to go to Know Before You Go. If you go to Know Before You Go, it has all of your foster ed rights. And you can download that application if you have an iPhone, if you have a Samsung. It's on every application so that you know the rights that you have, and they're right at your fingertips. It is called Know Before You Go, okay? I'm going to refer to that throughout this radio program. Okay? All right. So let's drill down to it. The question that was asked of me is, I don't know who to call. I don't know where to get the information. So now I want to start with the actual information. So if you're a foster child and you are brought into the foster care system, you immediately are assigned an attorney. That's called your attorney or a children's attorney. And that attorney represents you in court before the judge. You're also assigned a social worker. And that social worker is the person that comes out to your group home, that talks to you. That social worker also comes to court with you and for you. So immediately, if you have questions, then there are 3 people that you can ask right away. One is the placement, whether you live in a group home, a foster home, or if you live in relative care. You can ask your placement. You can say, hey, what school am I going to go to? Or, I was wondering if there's a park close to here. Or I would like to learn how to ride a bike, or I want to learn how to roller skate or rollerblade. Whatever it is that you have a question about, you are able to ask starting there. So I want to talk about because this person was a teenager and they were concerned about having the opportunity to talk to their social worker. When you talk to your social worker, you can call your social worker. Your social worker has a telephone number. Some social workers will give out their email address. It all depends on how that person operates. So if you can get the number to your social worker, you can, and not if you can get the number, you should have the number to your social worker. You can ask to call your social worker at any time. if you are in a situation where you're asked to call your social worker in front of your group home administrator or in front of your foster parent, ask if you can speak to your social worker in private. And you're going to say, wait a minute, Dr. McNeil, I'm never allowed to speak to my social worker in private. But that is your right. You have the right to talk to your social worker in private. And if that's not happening, when your social worker comes to your group home, comes to your foster home, ask to talk to your social worker in private. And that is your right. So I know you're going to say, wait a minute, Dr. McNeil, that's going to cause some ripples in my house. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. And the reason why I say that it should not is because a foster child cannot feel that their living is in jeopardy if they express their true feelings to their social worker. And you say, Dr. McNeil, how did you get to talk to your social worker to their living being in jeopardy? Because that's the number one thing I hear from children. Like from foster kids. I don't want to say what's going on. I don't have the ability to really tell you what's going on with me because I may not have a place to live. If my foster parent, if the group home doesn't like what I say, then what do I do? And I'm telling this report in front of them. So that's how I got there. Like, how do you talk to your social worker? How do the kids feel in jeopardy? That's how I got there. And that's something very common with foster youth all over the country. I had a wonderful opportunity to meet a foster youth this week who graduated from Harvard, and she's going to be on our show in about 3 weeks. And that was one of the things that she brought to my attention, that all the time I was placed in my group home placement, I could never talk to my social worker alone. And I really wish I could. So that's the first place to start. Call your social worker. If you need to ask your social worker something, ask to speak to them in private. That is your right. Another person that you can call and have access to at all times is your attorney. Ask your attorney. Ask your attorney some of the tough questions. Where is my mother? Where is my dad? What was decided in my case? What do my parents have to do for us to be reunited? Because the purpose of the court is reunification of the family. So you can ask your social worker, you can ask your attorney, what do my parents have to do so that we can be reunited? So that you know. Well, after we do that, then what's the next step? Ask questions. Where is my brother placed? Where is my sister placed? How often do I get to visit my brother or my sister if you are separated? According to California law, you have the right to visit your sibling at least once a month. And that is to come from your social worker and their social worker. And that right is not subject to their time. Where I don't have time to take you this month. It's inconvenient for me this month. Your ability to visit your siblings are not dependent on the time or the convenience of someone else. That is your right. And if you don't get to see your siblings, you need to talk to your social worker. Talk to your attorney. I would like to see my siblings. I would like to have constant communication with my siblings. So talk to them. So that's where you start if you're in foster care. Who do I talk to? Who do I ask information from and of? You want to start with your social worker, your attorney. You want to start with talking to your placement to ask for that information. Who do you talk to? I also want to say something about going from not having the information to having the information. When I say to you self-advocacy, I'm not saying go from 0 to 100. I'm not saying that to advocate for yourself, you have to tell people off or cuss people out. That's not what I'm asking you to do at all. I'm asking for you to say in a very polite way your rights. And you don't need to fight. This is your legal right. The fault has already been won for you. So don't argue. Don't get upset. Just say, this is my right. I would like to talk to my attorney. This is my legal right. You don't have to argue. You don't have to get upset. So many people have already gone to Sacramento and they've already fought for you. This is your right. So stay calm, cool, collected. And if I'll just take this up with my attorney. I'll take it up with my social worker. I would like to have every right that's afforded to me. And we're going to talk about education at the next segment. So I want to express that to you because when I was in the room with a lot of teenage foster youth, when I said the word advocacy, they thought that meant that I got to go and I got to fight, or I have to go and I have to tell people off. And that's not what Dr. McNeil means at all. That fight has already been won for you. So just stand in your purpose and keep saying what you know to be true. Again, if you didn't hear me at the top of the show, if you have a cell phone, if you're a foster kid and you have a cell phone or you have access to a computer, I want you to download a program that has all of your rights on there. It's called Know Before You Go. Know Before You Go. If you have that program, it has everything that you need to know. You have family rights. You have the rights to go. You have the right to go to court. So I'm going to go through the face page of Know Before You Go so that you know what is exactly there. Because this show is dedicated to you, my beloved. When you say, Dr. McNeil, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to get the information from. Today, we're going to go step by step where you get the information and who you ask. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil, and you're listening to the Foster to Foster radio show. Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. The Unstoppable Awards is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships to foster youth. If you are a foster youth graduating from high school and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, or San Bernardino County, we'd like to offer a scholarship to you if you have a 2.3 to 3.2 GPA. You've overcome some significant challenges and you've been accepted to a college, university, or trade school. Please visit our website at www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We'd like to help you. We'd like to make you unstoppable. Right Way Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports transition-age foster youth throughout the Los Angeles County. Our goal is to reduce the homelessness and unemployment rates and to increase the high school graduation and college enrollment rates. We do this by providing individual case management and mental health services to each participant to increase their self-sufficiency. To get involved, please visit our website at www.therightwayfoundation.org or call our office at 323-903-5021. The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call The Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays. We're back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. Welcome back to Foster Radio Show. Today, this show is dedicated to foster youth who said, Dr. McNeil, I don't know who to call. I don't know the information that I need to help myself while I'm here in foster care. And so this show is dedicated to you today, my beloved. And so I want to, as promised, I want to go over the Know Before You Go application. And if you're there, you'll see on the first page, it lists a couple of your rights. And I'm going to start on the left side of that page and go over. It says you have the right to live in a safe and comfortable home with enough clothes and food. So when they say enough clothes and food, that means, do you have access to food all the time? Do you have proper clothing? If your shoes if you need another pair of shoes and you ask your foster parent or the group home, I need another pair of shoes, and they say, no, you have to wait 6 months for your clothing allowance. That's not true. They receive a foster payment for your care every month. So you don't have to wait 6 months in order to have another pair of shoes. Your own place to store your things. Now listen to this. You have the right to live in a safe and comfortable home with an allowance if you are in a group home. So if you're in a group home, your right is to have an allowance. Many children that I talk to in a group home have no access to money, and that's not what the state says. So be sure to know your rights. A phone that you can use to make confidential calls. So remember when I was saying earlier that you have the right to call your social worker, to call your attorney in confidence? That means that no one else can hear you. And here it is right on the Know Before You Go application, that you have the right to make those calls and to talk to people confidentially. And then it goes on to tell you other things that you have the right to within the home, like to be treated respectfully. Then it goes on to no one can lock you in a room or building, abuse you physically, sexually, or emotionally, punish you by physically hurting you for any reason. Look through your things unless they have a good and legal reason. It says, connecting with a caring adult. You have the right to identify and maintain relationships with a caring adult while you are in foster care. So that includes if you had a mentor, or if you had a teacher, or if you had someone that you were really connected to, you have the right to stay connected to them. You have rights at court too. Go to court and talk to the judge. Please do that. The judge has no idea what's happening with you unless you show up in court. So when someone says to you, you don't have to be there. They're not going to listen to you anyway. That's just not the truth. When you show up and you state to the judge what you have to say on your own behalf, the judge will listen. And when you're there in court, you have the right to tell your attorney, hi, I would like to say a couple of words to the judge myself. Your Honor, I would like the opportunity to speak. You can start with just that phrase. Another right is keep your court records private to you. You have the right to be told to be told by your social worker or probation officer and your attorney about any changes in your case plan or placement. So when you go to court, if there's any change in your placement or your plan, your social worker, your attorney, they must tell you what's going on, including your probation officer. You have school rights. You have the right to go to school every day. This is a big one here. You have the right to go to after-school activities for your age and development level. So if you are enrolled in school and you say to your group home or you say to the foster home, I want to enroll in basketball, I want to play soccer, and they say, I'm not going to pick you up after school. That's not, you have the right to participate in that activity. Or I want to play soccer and there's a uniform cost. Well, we don't have money for that. Yes, there is money for that. So make sure that you keep telling your social worker, you keep telling your attorney, I want to play in an after school sport. It doesn't have to be a sport. If you want to be an after school debate, after school graphic artist, after school drama, after school art, if you want to go to an after school club just to learn how to sew or any activity, you have the right to do that, just like any other child. So be sure that you advocate for that. And that includes the fees. Also, it includes that you have the right to do that safely. So what I hear a lot is, Dr. McNeil, I can go to practice, but if I go to practice, it's dark outside and I'm afraid, but no one will pick me up. I have to take the bus. Let your social worker know. Let the judge know. I get out of practice at 7:30 at night. It's starting to get dark outside. I'm afraid. Your foster parent is supposed to make sure that you have safe and appropriate transportation. That includes them going to pick you up. They're not above getting in their car to go pick you up. And I hear that from a lot of foster youth, like, well, Dr. McNeil, they won't come pick me up. I have to get to and from by myself. They say, oh, I'm provided a bus pass. But just because our state provides them a bus pass, please hear my voice. These are children. They may be afraid to catch the bus at night and walk home to the group home. They are children. They're not many adults. And they should have the right to grow and develop just like any other child. So I wanted to make sure that you knew some of those rights there. And I'm going to cover one more, and then we're going to go into your education rights. Here it is. It says you have family rights too. You can visit and contact your brothers and sisters unless a judge says that you cannot. So again, here, as I stated earlier, you have the right to visit and contact your brothers and sisters. You have the right to contact your parents and other family members too, unless a judge says you cannot. So unless the judge says this contact is prohibited, this family member is prohibited, you cannot contact that family or your mom or your dad. You have the right to contact them. Remember, the goal of children's court is family reunification. And so I wanted to highlight some of the rights that you have here. And last but not least, it says you have the right to participate in school activities. You have the right to participate in age-appropriate extracurricular, enrichment, and social activities like church, school, and community. So that even means that if your school is having a one-time homecoming event, or if your school is having a one-time seminar to do a career day, you have the right to attend that. So please know your rights. Please, if you have a cell phone, if you have a computer, would you please download Know Before You Go. And before we go to the next commercial break, I want to dive into your education rights a little bit. And if you're not familiar with this, I want to make sure that we highlight just a few of your education rights. And the biggest one here in the state of California as of late is that you have the right, if you are in middle school and high school, you have the right to stay at your school of residence. So now let's say, what does that mean? So, Dr. McNeil, this school year, I started out at ABC Elementary. Wonderful. Well, in January or in February, if you change placements, do you have to go to a completely different school? You have the right to stay at the school that you started. It gets even better once you get beyond middle school and you enter high school, because what we're looking for is for students, for children, for our foster youth to be connected to schools. You have the right to stay at your high school of origin. So if you started at ABC High School and you move to another location, you have the right to continue to go to ABC High School. Now, here's the rub. What do you mean, Dr. McNeil? Here's the rub. What we're trying to work out now is who pays for your transportation. Is that the Department of Children and Family Services, or is that the school district? I would say to you, let the adults figure out who does what. But if you are connected to that school and you're doing well at that school, or you want to do well at that school, please continue to ask everybody around you to allow you to continue to attend ABC High School. That is your legal right. Okay? So I wanted to talk about that. That's huge here in the state of California, because before this law passed, we used to have foster youth that went to a number of schools before they graduated. One young lady that I gave a scholarship to this year and last year, one young lady had gone to 21 schools. Another young lady that I gave a scholarship to this year through our Unstoppable Awards, she had been to 30 schools. Just imagine if you had gone to 30 schools before you graduated high school. What would your education experience be like? What gaps in education would you have? One school operates completely different than another school. So what this law is trying to do, this law is trying to stop that from happening to foster youth. Because what we know to be true is our foster youth are graduating from high school at a very low rate. A year ago, it was 50%. 50% of all foster youth here in Southern California, in the state of California, graduated from high school. And I'm sad to report to you that that's the statistic nationwide. So what helps us stop from 50% graduating from high school? This does. If you know you're right, if you know that you have the right to stay at this school of origin and you want to do your very best at this school, then ask to stay at that school so that you can be one of the ones that graduate from high school. Another thing that passed here in Southern California is reduced credits for foster youth. And we now here, if you live in the state of California, they have a different, if you are a foster youth and you are eligible for this, it doesn't mean I'm a foster child, I'm automatically eligible. That is not true. There are a set of criteria that you must meet in order to qualify for reduced credits, okay? So if you qualify for that, you go from needing, like if you're in LAUSD, you go from needing 210 credits to needing 167. And if you are a foster child and you can hear my voice and you're going, oh, Dr. McNeil, I want the 167. Let me tell you something, beloved. No, you don't. You owe it to yourself to be the very best that you can be. And it may sound like the easy way out today, but it won't be easy when you get to be older. You want to make sure you know all that it is that you can learn. You want to make sure you're able to be at the top of your game. And so be very careful when someone says to you, okay, yeah, you can qualify for this. Go ahead and take the 167. Be very careful. If I were you, I would want to know everything that I need to know in high school so I can do well in college, so I can do well in life. All of you watch TV, you see these fine homes, you see these fine cars, and you're looking to acquire that in your life. And one of the ways to acquire those things is through a good education. So don't cheat yourself before you can even begin. And you say, Dr. McNeil, I don't think you know what you're talking about. That sounds easy to me. Then I want you to also hear another statistic. Do you know the number of kids in community college that are taking remedial classes? That means they're not even taking classes to graduate from community college. They're taking up all these makeup classes because they don't know the high school information. They're taking math 00001 instead of math 101. You don't want to be one of those kids. You'll always be playing the makeup game. And far too many foster youth are in remedial classes. Another thing that just happened at our Cal State system just removed all remedial classes from the Cal State system. Well, if that's the case, that means that you have to show up on campus ready to do college level work. So if you're not doing well in high school, you're not going to be able to show up at Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Dominguez Hills, Cal State LA, and be ready to do college level work. I'm not going to fool you. I want to tell you the truth so that you can advocate for yourself. And so when you're in high school, what does that mean? That means when you're in high school, what questions should I ask? I should ask my guidance counselor, how do I make it to a Cal State? How do I make it to a UC? How do I enter into mechanic school? How do I enter into whatever school you want to go to? But you have to chart the path. And you have to stay focused to it. And when I say focus to it, I mean focus to the path to get a career or a college education. You can always change your mind what you want to major in. One moment you may like to be a mechanic. The next moment you may want to go to culinary school. That's okay. But make sure that you continue to ask your counselor what it is that you need to do in order to be successful. So what are the questions that you need to ask? How am I doing in school? Am I on target to graduate? Can I see the number of credits that I have? How many credits do I need to graduate? How many credits do I need to go to this college? What classes do I need to take in order to go to a UC or a Cal State? Those are the types of questions that you need to ask your school counselor so that you know what you need to do to make the next step. So I wanted to take this time this morning on our radio show to have a very intimate and informative conversation with all of our foster youth to say what it is that you need to do in order to go from Dr. McNeil, I don't know. I don't know who to ask. I don't know the information. No one ever told me. I wanted to be able to give you a step-by-step recipe of what questions to ask and who to ask the questions of. And I want to be clear that when I say self-advocacy, I don't mean telling people off or cursing people out. I simply mean advocating for your rights. You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. People already did that for you. It's already your legal right. So rest assured in that. Be calm, be easy with it, but keep saying the same thing. That's advocacy. Say the same thing until you get what you're asking for. I need to know what I need to do to go to Cal State or a UC. And until you get the information, you continue to repeat to your guidance counselor, to your social worker, to your lawyer, I need to know what credits I need in order to go to a UC or a Cal State. That's advocacy. Thank you, guys. When we come back from this short commercial break, we're going to dive more into some of your legal rights, and we're going to take a look at a legislative watch. I have a bill that I want you to keep your eyes and ears on, okay? My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil, and you're listening to the Foster to Foster radio show. The Hair Garden.
where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call the Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays. Right Way Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports transition-age foster youth throughout the Los Angeles County. Our goal is to reduce the homelessness and unemployment rates and to increase the high school graduation and college enrollment rates. We do this by providing individual case management and mental health services to each participant to increase their self-sufficiency. To get involved, please visit our website at www.therightwayfoundation.org or call our office at 323-903-5021.
Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. The Unstoppable Awards is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships to foster youth. If you are a foster youth graduating from high school and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, or San Bernardino County, we'd like to offer a scholarship to you if you have a 2.3 to 3.2 GPA, you've overcome some significant challenges, and you've been accepted to a college, university, or trade school. Please visit our website at www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We'd like to help you. We'd like to make you unstoppable. We're back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. Thank you, and welcome back to Foster Radio Show. I'm Dr. Anissa McNeil, and during this segment, I want to highlight a couple of laws that pertain to foster youth who are in our juvenile detention center. And I don't know if you are quite aware that the number one population of young children and young adults that are currently in our youth detention center, our adult prison center, are individuals that have come into contact with our foster care system at some time. When we look at the statistics of youth in our juvenile justice system that are foster youth, you'll see that the statistic is more like 55% of all youth in our juvenile justice system and our juvenile delinquency system are foster kids. If you go to the adults, the numbers are alarming. When you look at the number of adults that have had some interaction with the foster care system that are now in our prison system, that startling statistic is over 70%. And so I want to take a look at what's your right when you are if you are a foster youth and you find yourself in our juvenile delinquency court. If you find yourself in juvenile delinquency court, you are in between two courts. And I hope you know that. One is our dependency court. That's where you went when you first came into the foster care system. And now you are in the delinquency court. And so when you enter into the delinquency court, you need to always know who is the lead court for your case. Dr. McNeil, what do you mean by that? So if I do something and I find myself in the juvenile delinquency system and I go to court and the judge says, Dr. McNeil, delinquency probation is now over your case. That means that children's court takes a back seat. And that is significant for you. Children's court is about services and systems. Delinquency court is about providing you services, but they also are about the adverse behavior. So you want to be sure that you know who is guiding your case. Okay? With that being said, when you are in a juvenile delinquency center, you also should be going to school. The Los Angeles County Office of Education provides school while you are in every juvenile detention center here in Southern California. So when it's time for you to go to English, make sure you're in the right English. If you're in English 10, make sure you tell, I already did English 9. I need to be in English 10. If you're in math and you're still doing adding and subtracting and you need to be in algebra, tell them, I already did this math. I need to be in algebra. And I'll give you just from my experience. I have had individuals repeat the same. I have represented individuals who have repeated the same class 7 times. And so that's not infrequent in the system because they're trying to figure out what class you took, what class you didn't take. And so I would like for you to advocate on your behalf. If you knew you took English 9, tell them, I already took English 9. Please call this high school. I took that there. I want to take English 10. So you have the right to go to school every day when you're there. And when you're there, you have the right to be in the appropriate classes. So make sure that you're talking to everyone to make sure that you're in the right classes. And I'm going to emphasize the word talk with everyone. Again, advocacy is not about telling somebody off or cursing somebody out. Advocacy is just simply stating your truth. That's it. And you keep stating your legal truth until someone does exactly what you're asking for. Okay? While you're in the detention center, you can still ask to communicate with your juvenile delinquency attorney. And then you can contact that attorney and say, I was in English 9. I'm asking everybody to put me in English 10. Can you help me? You can also do that. And you will have an attorney when you are in delinquency court as well. And so I promised before we leave our show today, I promised that we would talk about new legislation that's happening here in the state of California that I really want you to keep an eye on. Let's keep looking at this legislation and see what happens here for our foster youth. The new legislation is AB 811. And this legislation is geared to, it says, on September 29, 2017, AB 811 has been amended in a number of ways. State-level juvenile facilities must provide reasonable access to computers and the internet for educational purposes and to allow youth to stay in touch with their families. County-level juvenile facilities, however, need only provide access for educational purposes. Youth in foster care will also have access to technology for educational purposes, but they also will have access for social and extracurricular purposes. So I want you to keep your eye on this piece of legislation. I know that I'm keeping my eye on it because if you constantly listen to the Foster to Foster radio show, you'll know that just last time we talked about sex trafficking and how so many foster youth are lured into sex trafficking from these social internet sites. So there's a little bit of difference in this bill from what I can hear when it says county level juvenile facilities, however, need only provide access for educational purposes. I agree with that. If LACO, if Los Angeles County Office of Education says they need this internet for educational purposes, I completely see that. For educational purposes, which means that LACO should have classes that have internet or technology as a part of the curriculum. So it should match. That's what I'm making sure that we all watch this to see if it all matches. Or if the kids are given a book and then asked to go look it up on the internet, it has to match. This is where my heart goes, let me watch this. It says youth in foster care also will have access to technology for educational purposes, but they will also have access for social and extracurricular purposes. What are the extracurricular purposes? If you are currently detained in a juvenile justice system, what are the special extracurricular purposes for foster youth? Or are we placing them in a vulnerable position? So I'm going to watch this very closely to see how we define social and extracurricular purposes. Because anything social, could that be a call to their sister, an email to a brother? And if that's the case, could that just be under the access or the supervision of someone there at the detention center? What extracurricular activities do youth involve themselves in while detained in a juvenile detention center? And why is that only delineated to foster youth? Why is that not delineated to every child that's in a juvenile detention center? So I'm watching this, not that I'm saying that it's not a good bill. I just want to make sure that the curriculum requires internet access. I just want to make sure that the curriculum requires that. And two, I want to get the definition of social and extracurricular purposes for foster youth. What could that be? And I pulled the bill from the California Legislative Information. And when I got to that particular section, that's why I asked you all to please, foster youth, please watch this bill. I read that section and I'm going to closely follow so that I see what they mean by social and extracurricular activities. I really want to keep an eye on the bill. Not that it won't provide some good to foster youth, but it also could continue to make a vulnerable population even more vulnerable. So those are the things that we can help ourselves. When I say I want you to go, or the young person asks me, how do I go from a state of, I don't know, Dr. McNeil, to what questions do I need to ask? This is how we stay informed. This is how we advocate for ourselves. And again, I want you to advocate. You don't need to jump up or argue or curse someone out. That is not advocacy. Advocacy is just simply stating your legal right consistently and firmly until someone delivers those services or that request that you are asking for. My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil. Thank you so much for listening to the Foster to Foster radio show. We'll be back next time to always help, inform, and serve our foster youth. Have a wonderful day.